I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'm the chair of the Highland NAC. Real briefly, I was asked to describe the purpose of the NAC right at the beginning. And the NAC is a level of city government and a level of volunteerism in the neighborhood. There are a number of NACs, and we get a city employee, Miles, who helps us coordinate interacting with the various city departments. I want to note that our chief of police is here tonight, the new chief, and give her an opportunity to introduce herself first.
Hello, my name is Rhonda Groshong, and I was recently appointed by Mayor Doyle to be the permanent police chief. It was about June 21st. Prior to that, when Chief Monger retired in June of 2019, Mayor Doyle asked me to step in as an interim role while they searched for, did a search for a permanent chief. And things kept evolving and developing. And a year later, I was still on the spot, and I was lucky enough that Mayor Doyle asked me if I would to stay on as a permanent police and a police chief, and so I agreed to do so, and here I am. I'm very thankful that you guys allowed me to come here tonight and ready to answer any questions that you might have about what's going on in the PD or any other questions about what's going on in our country or anything like that. So feel free to ask me some questions if you want.
We have 20 minutes on the agenda to do that. I am going to slightly reorder it to respect your time, but we do have a few things that we need to do before that. So running down the board members, I'm Adam Gretzinger, I'm the chair. Annie, Juanita, Canette, could you introduce yourselves? And then Reggie and Ryan and Jeff, in that order.
Hi, I am Annie, and I am a board member and a relatively new resident to the Highland neighborhood.
And I'm Canette. I'm the recorder, and I have been here for almost 20 years now and grew up in the area as well. Reg?
I am Juanita Coperanis. I have lived in the area for 55 years, and I have been a member of the Highland NAC for many years. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Bernadette. I am on the board, and I have lived in the Highland area for almost 9 years.
Hi everyone, my name is Reggie Frumkin, and I have lived in the Beaverton area my whole life almost. I grew up here, I went to Beaverton schools, and I'm the vice chair of the Highland NAC. Thanks for all being here today.
Am I supposed to be next?
Jeff with us, yes.
Yeah, hey, Jeff Menzel. I've been a part of the Highland NAC for probably 22, 23 years, served various positions, and I'm currently the treasurer. Thank you, Adam.
Did I miss any board members?
It was Ryan?
Yes.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Ryan, board member, lived in the neighborhood 3 years, married to Adam over here.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go right into our Tualatin Hills report so that we can let her have her evening. Lori, could you take it away with what's going on?
Yeah, great. Hi, all. So since we met last time, there haven't been a ton of changes. We are still trying to approach to get into phase 2. It looks like we've got a little bit more of a hold on that right now. So Obviously, the biggest thing that's going to affect is the playgrounds and the swimming pools. We are working on some reopening plans, looking to open some centers coming up on the dry side, so weight rooms and those type of things. So we've got several different teams working on the plans to figure out the staffing and the programming for those sites. One of the things we did kick off this week was summer camps. So we have some summer day camps for children. They're taking place at HMT, at Mountain View Champions Field, up at the Jenkins Estate, at Camp Rivendell, which is traditionally for adaptive campers, but this year they're using it as a regular campsite. And then also there's a new campsite this year at Raleigh Park. So the camps are half or whole day, and for a variety of different things, from sports to nature to arts and crafts, all kinds of things going on. So we had a lot of happy kids this week. A few other things going on. We have begun a message garden, and in the message garden, this is over at Schiffler. Basically, it's makes a point that THBRD stands in solidarity with the community for racial justice. And so what that message garden is basically a garden of painted rocks. So people are putting their messages and drawing pictures and things, inspiration and hope and purpose. So you can take your rocks over there and take pictures and share. We also have a virtual rec center and lots of activities available on site on the website at thprd.org. So things from fitness to children's and families activities involving nature, enrichment, sports, ideas of things that people can do away from at a rec center per se. So we've got that. I know you guys are all super active in volunteerism, so we have volunteer opportunities still going on. There's several opportunities at community gardens around the district. So those are available to sign up online. And then also we're looking for more volunteers for our summer camps. So if you're interested in working with youth, helping out, so that is also an opportunity. Just a reminder that the tennis courts are open, the dog parks are open, our skate park is open, all the trails and the green spaces in the parks are available. So that's kind of where we are right now. Anybody have any questions?
Lori, just one thing on those volunteer opportunities.
Yep.
Do you suppose you could send Adam the whatever I need to see, and we can help promote those through our channels?
I can do that. Yep, I will. So I'll send you the links to that. And and again, I know that we've been working with the natural resources side to get you guys your project in August going. So hopefully that's been communicated.
Yes, it has.
Okay, good.
And I'll talk on that more later on.
There's a question from somebody who typed it in who's just watching. And the question is, you mentioned a few facilities that were on the verge of opening. Which ones in particular?
Based on our current projections, we're looking at opening the athletic center and the dry side of Conestoga. Those will look to be our first sites, one in the north side, one in the north, one in the south. And then as we progress into this and we can expand our programming, then we will try to, again, expand opening those centers. As I mentioned before, we had a huge reduction in staff. So we're projecting what staffing we're going to need and how we're able to bring them back. So the timing on that is also playing into how we're working on opening these centers and what we can offer.
For anybody who is either a panelist or just an attendee, you can type questions in the Q&A section at any time. And if I see them in time while the speaker is still going, I will read them for you. Any other questions from the panelists, board members for Lori?
I have a question. Well, first, I want to say that it's awesome to have community garden volunteer events. The one in Schiffler Park is a really good resource for residents of our NAC who live along Allen in that corridor to have access to gardening space. I have a question regarding Schiffler Park. There was a structure that was torn down on Erickson, just south of the park. I believe that that property is owned by the district. I haven't been over there in a couple of months, but I was wondering if you could tell us more about that.
You know, I don't know offhand, but I can find out for you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, let me see what I can figure out, and I'll touch base with you next month if that's soon enough.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And Lori, could you tell us about the staffing loss? Is that, just program, fees loss, or is it like people are on furlough? What kind of hardship is that for the DHPRD staff?
It's all of the above. So it initially started with our part-time program staff. So that was upwards of almost 800 employees. So that was huge. So because again, we didn't have programs for them to run, therefore, we did not have a way to sustain them. So they were separated. And then there were a group of full-time and regular part-time employees that were either laid off or furloughed, depending on what the expectation of how long their particular site or center was not going to be available. So we did have some, like I said, some full-time employees that were both laid off, and there's been a furlough. And so we're just at the point of reevaluating what that means for our next, the next, I guess, time frame of what's coming next, because we had a furlough for 2 months, and we're approaching that on July 15th as the end date of that. But who will be extended, how that will be extended, that remains to be seen. So it just depends on what we're able to begin to offer and in what timeline. So
is that coinciding with your budget year?
Well, our budget year just began July 1.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't a reflection that way. It was just simply that we aren't open, our centers aren't open. I mean, there were a few maintenance folks that were also laid off that were, again, they were in buildings that are no longer at this point operating. So again, the use of their abilities was not needed at this point. So hopefully as we, again, to be reopening, there'll be some recalls, callbacks, and that kind of thing as we expand again our staff. But it was about 86% total in staffing.
Well, we're very sorry to see that. Is there any other question from the panelists or the community for Parks and Lori here? And remember to unmute before you start talking. Hearing and seeing none, I think you can get on with your evening, Lori. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good to see and hear you all.
All right.
Okay, take care.
Next, we have our Chief of Police with us. And I'm just going to relocate the 20 minutes that's later in the agenda since we have our new Chief of Police with us. So maybe we could let her introduce herself again with, like her career and what she wants to do. And then we can start with questions. And the person who wanted law enforcement discussion in Beaverton, and let's start that as soon as she is done introducing herself.
Okay. Well, thank you again. My name is Chief Rhonda Groshon. I was just appointed by Mayor Doyle on June 21st after a year as the interim. I was hired by the Beaverton Police Department in 1995. Actually, my 25th anniversary is next week. Beaverton's the only agency I've ever worked for. I didn't grow up in Beaverton. I grew up on a small town on the Oregon coast and came out to college out here and never left. and got into police work and haven't looked back. It's been the greatest thing I could have ever imagined doing. I never really wanted to be a police officer when I was a kid. But later on in life, I had some friends that were, and I thought it was pretty cool. And I put my application in, and now here I am. So never would have thought I'd be in this position 25 years ago. So wanted to just give you just a couple quick updates. Our new building is coming along. We had a fiber optic problem. We were supposed to move in May. We had a fiber optic problem, and then with the COVID, that pushed things back as well on construction. And so we are planning on moving in on the second weekend in August. So we're pretty excited about that. That's going to be all hands on deck, because we literally have to pick up the police department and move it to Hall & Allen without a break in service. So it's going to be a long week, to say the least. The other topic I kind of wanted to hit on just a little bit, and is what's going on now throughout the nation and in our own communities with the murder of George Floyd. So just to let you know, what we're doing is a lot of, we do outreach anyway, but we're doing more outreach. I've been in a lot of meetings with different groups that I didn't even know existed, but thankfully I was made aware. And so I've been able to meet with a lot of different groups and get inputs and ideas on police reform. I've also been at city council. Well, I go up to every city council meeting, but it's been focused on police, how the police operate and what they do for the last several council meetings. I don't know if you guys tune into those, but so work sessions coming up with the counselors on the big topics right now are, of course, the use of force, the school resource officers, and those are the two main big topics. In addition, I announced at the city council meeting that I'm going to be holding a couple of different listening sessions, or town halls, if you will. Those have not been scheduled yet. I'm going to try and get those scheduled for August. It'll be, unfortunately, it'll be, on a video platform. But there'll be a moderator, and so the city's going to advertise that through all their different channels. So be on the lookout for those dates, and if you'd like to join, that would be great. And we'll just answer our community's questions about anything, topics of use of force or school resource officers, or any other questions that the community might have.
One of our board members asked, could you tell us which community groups you worked with to solicit input?
Okay, so we've been hitting all the NACs. I know the officers come to the NAC meetings, but myself and the captains, because I can't be everywhere at once, have been going to the NAC meetings. I've had 2 meetings with the Beaverton Black Parents Union on that. We also we always have gone to the Diversity Advisory Board and the Human Rights Advisory Board, but now we're being asked to do more work with them. And through the Human Rights Advisory Board, I'm now in a series of meetings with them on police policy and procedure. And they want to look at our policy and our response to use of force, and even are talking about and presenting to the council on a community oversight committee. All that to say, there's a lot going on, and do we need to make changes? We do. We need to evolve and do things. I think we do things okay now. We do things well now, but we can always do better. We're constantly evolving and improving our policies and learning, and we have to be progressive, and we have to meet the needs of our community. So a lot more is, I think, going to go on in the next couple of months. I'm excited for that, to see what it brings.
Kenneth asks, can you give an update on the stop findings?
So the stop findings, we got those released. Those were released by the Criminal Justice Commission the first part of January. And so the information will be updated again. It's yearly. So what they originally released in January are still the numbers. We'll have updated numbers. You know, we don't keep track of them. It's all recorded by the officers, and then the data goes to the Criminal Justice Commission, and then they do a lot of in-depth analysis and tracking, and then once a year they put out a report.
So my understanding was there was a report in November that talked about the Beaverton Police Department specifically related to search, and
correct.
That's the part. What are your thoughts on those findings, and are we doing anything to?
Did you see the findings?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we had disparity in, and I don't have it in front of me, and I can certainly send the information out. Not everybody might have seen it, and I can send it to Miles to send to you guys. The snapshot or the study was comparing white motorists or pedestrian stops to persons of color, and the two were African American and Hispanic. And so there was 3 different tiers that we were compared on. It was called Veil of Darkness, hit rate, and citations, searches, citations, and arrests. And those 3 were in one category. So there's 3 separate categories. What the CJC found is, and to be not in violation, I'm not using the right word, to get noticed by the CJC or a note saying, hey, we got to watch this agency, if you will, there had to be a 2%. You couldn't go over 2% disparity between any group. So we didn't have a 2% disparity in any group except for arrests on Hispanic and searches on Hispanics, or Latinos. The one kind of goes hand in hand with the other, because if we arrest somebody, we search them, before we put them in the car. So as far as that, I mean, there wasn't anything that CJC said I went and met with them and said that we were fine. They weren't going to refer us to the DPSST or anything like that, but to watch, be mindful, and do some training on, diversity training, implicit bias training, and we do that. So that's where we're at right now with that, but we won't know until November. They give us a heads up in November, and then in January they release it to the public.
We jumped right into that. Could you tell us what STOP stands for, and maybe just back up and tell us what the surrounds of Kennet's question are?
It was House Bill 2355, and I don't have my laptop with me, so and I will send this to Miles to send to you. 2355, House Bill 2355, where the legislation passed that all law enforcement agencies will record the rate, gender and race and age of any traffic stop. Hang on just one second.
Kennet, can you describe that while she's away?
It's what she was discussing. It was a state police, but was reported by department, is my understanding.
The state police were reported?
No, it was tasked to the state police, but all departments were required to report into that.
Right. The state police came up with the model on how to do it, but then the CJC, the Criminal Justice Commission, that's totally different than Oregon State Police, and then all the data goes to them, and it's not a police agency looking at police numbers. It's somebody
external.
totally different.
Is it Attorney General's office that
No,
supervises
it's the Criminal Justice Commission. It's a state-run organization. I'm not sure.
And I don't know. And they have collected data since 2018, reported on it at the end of 2019. And it was what she was talking about, the comparison between white, black, and Hispanic related to stops, searches, and citations, you said, I think.
Yeah. And then also they did a when I say veil of darkness. So they took traffic stops and they dove down into, they compared same days, same times of days. But what the veil of darkness was, is they did a comparison to see if persons of color were stopped more during the day than Caucasians, to see if officers then they compared it at night too. So the theory is if an officer can see through the, it's daylight, they can see who's driving the car, whereas darkness you really can't. And we did not have a disparity for African American or Hispanic on that.
So they're going to continue that data collection? Is that right?
Oh yeah. It's the law. It's we have to do
it's
it
now and on.
Mm-hmm.
So when you said, Chief, that we had problems with Latinx being at a higher rate, was that outside the 2% or was that underneath 2%?
It was just outside the 2%. And so what the CJC said, it was so minimal. It was outside 2%, but it wasn't like 5% that our marching orders were to possibly do diversity training and implicit bias training, which we do. And then they'll revisit it next January or when it's released and see how our numbers compare then. So they keep track of all that.
Okay. There is a typed comment that says, are you aware of the change.org petition to remove Officer Jason Servey?
I am aware of that.
Okay. Any further discussion on it, or
no?
Can you not comment?
Yeah, I cannot comment on personnel matters.
And Annie has unmuted. I think she has something to say.
Oh, I was going to ask the question you asked.
Okay.
Oh, I'd like to say something, just two parts. First, real quick, I've been really impressed with what Councillor Lacey Beatty has put forth as far as tangible policing reforms that can be enacted in the short term, not in the long term, where it would seem like there's the potential for leadership to drag their feet deliberately to try to stall or filibuster efforts. So I want to give recognition to Councillor Beatty and Councillor Sansusi for supporting that plan, at least as far as I know in the last couple of weeks. Maybe that's changed, but I would really recommend as a community member, long-term invested in the area, to look at adopting those sets of reforms. I think they're really reasonable demands. The second would be just a comment about my experience with the Beaverton Police Department taking on more authority than is necessary in this circumstance. This is relating to code compliance. And I want to say that I think there needs to be a public works code compliance employee, there needs to be that position created. And any code related complaints should be rerouted from the Beaverton Police Department to public works when they're dealing with public works related things like tree code violations, anything relating to something that is already under public works jurisdiction in general. My experience has been since I think the last 2 years when Beaverton Police took on doing code compliance. I could be wrong though, maybe it's been going on for longer, but there's been a continuous demonstrated disinterest towards meaningfully pursuing rectifications to tree code issues. I've made a number of reports for illegally removed street trees, destroyed street trees, topped street trees. Some of them are as old as 40 years. So these are significant assets to the neighborhood and they're publicly owned. But despite the city code saying that the trees need to be replaced in a number of days, whether it's 30 or 90, it goes several months in most cases without the property owner replanting any trees. And from my understanding, there's rarely ever fines issued relating to tree issues. So I think what we need as a city to better serve the needs of the public and our publicly owned green infrastructure is moving elements of code compliance with relating to public works to the actual public works department and give the public works staff the authority to enforce city code and pursue that. Just because they are trained in that, they have experience working with trees and sidewalks, anything like that, and the police can focus on prioritizing their resources in other ways, or we can better yet move that funding just permanently to other places. But I think this is something that needs to be done because there are too many tree removals and violations that are not being addressed and still outstanding, sometimes as many as like a couple of years going by before anything is addressed at all.
And for the chief, the camera's aiming a little low. We can't see your face.
Oh, goodness. How's that?
There you go.
Okay. Sorry.
Would you like to respond to that?
Code Services did come over from under CDD, Community Development, 2 years ago. I agree it was not the best fit. I don't think Code Services, my personal feelings, Code Services does not belong under a police department. And we are, and I think that now that is being looked at. I can just tell you that yes, it's being looked at.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it.
Should Reggie's comment be addressed to council or to middle leadership in the city? Where is the appropriate place for his feedback?
Probably council. I know that community development is going to have some meetings with council on it. So I would suggest council. Yes.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for the chief from the board members or from the panelists that cannot speak on the phone? You can use the Q&A box and I will read your questions.
This is Annie, a board member. I don't have questions per se as comments. I have been attending the city council meetings, and I know that the 8 Can't Wait campaign was brought to council and couldn't pass because there wasn't enough support. And I do want to say I appreciate the Beaverton Police Department being proactive and putting their response up online. It's really helpful as a public resident and as someone who's new to Beaverton to learn the history. But I would just like to say that, I spoke at those meetings, and I just want to reiterate too that I think that especially hearing your response, especially on chokeholds, I know with recent Oregon law changes, that there are more restrictions, but still as something that is deadly force and that has been so dangerous, to me, it seems like, I would just like to kind of reiterate that 8 Can't Wait seems like a great way to just show the public as a proactive, we are doing changes as these longer, more difficult conversations happen. And so I just, again, want to, because one of the feedback at council was that there wasn't enough community input yet. And so they couldn't make any changes. And I think that there has been enough discussion now, right? And that the public has learned things. And so I guess I just want to reiterate that it doesn't seem like it's a major change. It seems like these things are in line with what you are intending to do as a police department. And so to earn public trust that, you know, we are taking a really strong look at the role of policing in Beaverton is important.
So I agree. And I don't know if you, maybe you already know this. So we don't train chokeholds. And I think I said that the other night at the meeting. We don't train them because we don't want officers to use them. We don't use chokeholds to subdue people. That's if you use a chokehold, if you put your hands, if you have to, around somebody's throat because somebody's on your back and is going for your gun, and you can't do anything, or they're on top of you, straddling you, and the only thing you can do to save your own life or that of somebody else's is put your hands around somebody's throat. That is deadly force. And that is the only time that would ever be okay to use any kind of constricting anybody's airway, is if you are in fear, the officer's in fear for their own lives or somebody else's, and that's the only option they have. I think, and maybe you knew that, but I got a question from Counselor Beatty the other night at the work session, and she said, she said, you use them to subdue people. I'm like, no, that's deadly force. I don't know if that makes a difference. I think that's what the new law passed too, said that it has to be a deadly force situation. There are some agencies still in the United States who train them and use them to subdue. And I think that's where you may or may not like it, but I think that's where the information is coming from. I think a lot of people think that we still do that, and we don't. In 25 years, I have never trained. I don't know. I wouldn't tell you how to do chokehold. I don't know how to. I was never trained on it. It's just a technique that if you're in a ground fight with somebody trying to kill you and you can't do anything, get to your radio, get to your gun, and that's the only option you have left, that would be something that we would, that could be used. Does that make sense?
It does. I guess I still, one of the discussions was that it isn't trained. So again, not having any police background, it just seems to me that training is important. So if it's not even something that is trained and is something that is used as a last resort, to me, I guess as a resident without that training, it still seems important.
Are there departments nearby that do train that, Rhonda?
No, not in Washington County and not in Portland.
Actually, it's been quite a while that this area hasn't, most of the police departments in this area haven't used that, because there was a death related to a compression, subduing by compression, and of a mentally ill person, I believe. I don't know, Rhonda, if you've heard of this, but
it's James Chassis in Portland.
Yes.
Yes.
And so after that time, all of the areas, departments began to not use that, and many of them had not used it even at that time. So I hope we're ahead on that. But I do have that question. When you do have to subdue somebody, does somebody monitor their well-being, or
does somebody monitor the well-being of
the person being subdued? Does an officer monitor that person in some way if they have to be subdued? And what does subdued mean? Well, or how do you do that?
So, yes. So if we are an officer's in a use of force situation, and then once the person is safe, or and medical can come and check them out, and we monitor them. If there's no injury, we still, and they would take them back to the police station. They have to be monitored every 15 minutes. Well, they're actually on camera in the cell, but the officer has to go and check on them every 15 minutes. Yeah, did I answer that right?
Well, what techniques then do you use to subdue if you're not?
We can do, we have different control. Like we'll take an arm and we'll just very gently, like we can drop our body weight and it's drop them gently to the ground. That's called an arm bar takedown. If it's a fight, somebody's fighting us, we go for their legs and bring out their legs from underneath them to, we want them on the ground if they're dangerous, and then we can handcuff them from that point.
So you subdue by restricting extremities?
Yes, correct. That is correct. Yeah.
And we're about to wrap up. If anyone has last minute questions they would like to type in, we are kind of going past the time where we need to move to the rest of our agenda. So there are a few board members who have not said anything yet. Would you two like to ask anything of the chief, or anybody like to type anything in? Okay.
Oh, sorry, I apparently can speak faster than I can type. Just one quick last question in terms of those town hall meetings. Are you going to be taking public input for topics that you are going to discuss during those town hall meetings?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, or the mayor's office is trying to figure out how to do that. I mean, I see it as, we did one on COVID. The city did one on COVID where people just came and asked the questions that they had. And I don't think there was really any topic specific to what we're doing. I know the council is in these work sessions coming up on, let's say, the use of force and school resource officers. They want to hear from community members. And so I know there's work being done to somehow, it's two separate things. There's the town hall question and answer, and then there's these work sessions that the counselor is going to be taking input from community members on topics. And so it's two separate things. And I'm not sure how they're going to do the, how they're going to pick or how they're going to invite the community members to, or what groups they're going to invite for input. But once that's, set out, I think that Miles would probably be a good contact to find out how they're going to work.
Yeah, Miles, if you can keep us updated as you get information, that would be very helpful.
Absolutely.
Real quick, I just want to touch back on how you said you're working with various city advisory boards. One very important board that should not be overlooked is the Mayor's Youth Advisory Board, especially relating to the topic of school resource officers.
Yes.
It's a really bright group of students.
They are
well represented across the district with a lot of perspectives. So if they are meeting up again in September, please tap their knowledge and wisdom. And I think they're going to have a lot of really wise things to say.
I do not disagree with you that, and I am ashamed that I have not thought of that group at this point. Do you know if they meet in the summer, or do they just hook back up in September?
I think they start when in September when school resumes.
Okay.
Just in the fall, Chief.
Okay. Okay. All right. That thank you for that. That wow. I didn't think of that one.
I'd like to just input one other thing that I've noticed from the communities that do have problems. Not that I know this about ours. It looks like management in some of these problematic departments and the union heads are very adversarial when they should be working together. And are the police union officials cooperative, and like, are you messaging with them and working with them as a team? In addition to that contract adversarial nature, if we look at like Minneapolis, their police chief versus their union head, they don't like each other and they have very different messages, and it's shocking that they're both doing policing.
Yes.
So how are union relations in Beaverton here?
So 5 or 6 years ago, it wasn't great with the union's leadership that we call them the E-board, executive board. But recently we have been working with each other on various matters and open lines of communication. So our relationship with them is better than it's been in a long time. And I'm very happy for that. Now, they can communicate to the council, the president can, and the mayor, when they communicate as the BPA or the executive board, they're not police officers. They can say and do and ask and things that are different, as I'm sure you know. And maybe if you guys have paid attention to Portland, what Portland's going through with Daryl Turner, their police president, union president, did a vote of no confidence for their city council. I mean, stuff that I would never do or could do. So it's just a different dynamic. But as far as internal, there's things we don't agree on, but we're working together well. But there's it's just a different venue, I guess.
Yeah, aside from the money part, and there needs to be a good relationship.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have to communicate. Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on. We have no more typed questions, and the rest of our board members didn't bring things up. So thank you for joining us. You're welcome to stay with us for the rest of the meeting, but we have some maybe more boring business to do. And we appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, I had a nice time, and if you guys want to have me show up down the line, just get a hold of Miles, and be more than happy to come back.
Okay.
But now I think I'm gonna go eat my dinner.
Is Officer Matias going to be here too?
I don't know why he's not. He may have, if they get a big call right before these meetings and they need officers on the street, maybe that's why he didn't, but I'm going to check and find out why he wasn't here.
He may be here and just dialed the wrong number. I could poke through the attendees to see if there's someone else there that's supposed to be with us. But thank you for joining us. Now let's move on to event updates, and Kenneth, can you present your
Yes.
I've got your thing on display.
Well, events in the time of pandemic, we were moving along. The good news is on the weeding party, I think that one's getting pretty well developed. We did get approval from THPRD, and Crystal, our parks rep that I work with, will drop by our event, but has given us permission to proceed. As you know, the HOA agreed to partner with us. Their representative is having some personal issues, and it's going to help by, instead of her helping, she will send me somebody to help on that date. We can use many of the previous event supplies, and that's good news. We are going to limit the number of people as a part of the COVID restrictions, and you can see what I come up with as a COVID management plan for this event. We'll limit players. I think we'll restrict to people over 12. Everybody must wear a mask. We're going to cordon off work areas and 6-foot sections. Use bottled water instead of a water station, and we're going to limit the duration of the event. Only outstanding issues on this event right now are I need an additional canopy for the registration table for this event if somebody has one. I can get ice from Safeway. And I'm still working on how exactly we manage the yard debris, whether we have to haul it over to the dumpster or whether people might be willing to bring their yard debris bins to this so that we can deposit the ivy that we pull up from this event. You can see, let's see, I've just made a little synopsis of how we set up and how the event is run for that day. We start setup at 9, begin the event at 10, and we'll ask people to start to wrap up by about 1:30. What I also need from this event is Reggie's our captain, and last time we got volunteers through a posting process, right? And so I will be finalizing some copy and Annie sending that to you and Miles regarding requests for volunteers and a save the date. And then there'll be some more communication timelines that we'll need to do for this event. Any questions on the waiting event?
Canette, do you need to get funds for this?
I've submitted a grant. And Miles, are you there? Is Miles there?
Yes, Canette, I'm here.
Do you know if the grant has processed or not?
The grant's been approved. I just haven't written you the formal letter yet, but it's approved.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, this summer's events, because we won't be as expensive as what we provided in the 18th. We won't have the big canopies. We aren't going to set up a sports field and all that sort of thing.
So you don't need to do a motion to authorize expenditure of NAC funds to execute this event?
You approved the grant as I wrote it, so I'm assuming.
Okay.
Does that give me approval to use funds?
I do not know.
I will check with you on that.
You want to charge things on the credit card, right?
Yes.
So then you should make a motion to approve those expenses.
Okay, so in speaking with the dumpster people, I believe it's going to be about $750 for the rental and delivery and pickup of the dumpster. That will get us a 30 to 40 foot, 40 cubic foot, yard dumpster. And can I have a motion to approve this purchase?
Anybody but the chair can make a motion. Including you,
Brian, I
Canette.
motion to approve.
And I think it's you, Adam, that calls for a second.
Is there a second?
I second.
Discussion on the motion? And Jeff did say we need to do this.
And
I'll chime in real fast. Yeah, we do need to have approval on it because the grant, we have to prepay, and then after we've prepaid, the grant money then goes, we get reimbursed on it. So we do need to approve it in order to spend it, in order to get it back.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then the rest of the expenses I can have available when ready for you on the August meeting.
Great. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Anybody opposed? Unanimous. You got your money.
Thank you. Let me
Do you
just,
have any more in your program here to talk about
yes,
or display?
real quickly. We have, it has to do with the dumpster site. We were unable to, as you know, we were unable to get this, either the school campus or the church for our dumpster event. So Miles thought outside of the box, and we're going to close down our hope is that we are able to close down a city street, the area at 20th and Wilson, and set up a dumpster drive-through there. I've talked with the person on the corner that the dumpster would be will be aligned to the side of that property, and they feel that that's fine. There's a row of hedges there that should, and it is aligns with the garage, so that person shouldn't be too disturbed. The dumpster ends up needing to remain from Friday to be picked up on Monday. So we wanted you to be sure that it's in a spot that's not going to cause discomfort or other residents to be concerned. We also weren't able to, the metal scrap person that we had with our last event is no longer in business. We'll keep working on that. I don't know, Miles, did you find anything?
I'm sorry?
About the metal scrap collector?
I haven't yet. I haven't worked on it.
Okay, so I will need more volunteers for this event because of the traffic control and that sort of thing that we'll need to do on the street.
How many volunteers?
I need, for that event, I've decided we need about 6 to 8 volunteers.
Oh, so you need all the volunteers that are listed in the document here.
That's my estimate.
Nobody signed up already.
That's what I'd like, yes.
Okay. And we can certainly promote this on social media to get these volunteers. Because we have a time and date already, and you can work with Annie on that, and then you can expect a few board members to be involved.
Okay.
And you have somebody assigned in each of your events to monitor COVID exposure and compliance.
Right. That
somebody's
would be the
designated.
captain's
Okay.
job, although for the weeding party, because Reggie has to supervise a bunch of people that are in motion, I'll have somebody else there to help with that as well. And then for both these projects, we have a communication needs for both probably a use of the NAC email and to give a save the date kind of notice to people, and then to request volunteers through either NAC email or Facebook. And I'll submit event copy information to Annie and Miles probably the 1st of next week, if that's okay.
That works out well.
Okay, and then I'm counting on that that we'll also be able to use our mailer. We're allowed a neighborhood-wide mailer a couple of times a year. I don't think we've used it this year, and so I'd like to use that for this event as well. And
Miles, is the city going to be able to do that because of COVID?
Send out a mailer?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's just some service that you guys use that prints it, mails it.
And then finally, we'll have to have street signs and things like that related to the street closure and the instructions to people about the dumpster event.
The last time I tried to close a street, I got it approved, and then nobody showed up with barriers. So we might want to monitor that.
Okay.
That we're actually going to get the barriers and the closure will.
Adam, I know where they keep the barriers, so I'll make sure that they're there.
Well, last time I used my own cars and red tape when I had a permit to close the street, and no barrier showed up.
Yeah, we'll make
I'll
sure
come
they're
with tape and that sort of thing. Also, the church is loaning us tables and chairs again.
But the church declined to help us.
They are not, yeah, they're not using their parking lot even for their own event. So
okay,
everybody's cautious. I'm kind of a little disappointed in the school board or the school district, however.
Okay, do we need to go through any of the other things in your document here?
If you want to look through that, and again, the event's on the 15th of August. If anybody has any questions, I can attach this to the minutes if that's okay.
Sounds great.
Okay.
If you need in-kind donations for masks, let me know.
Oh, thank you, Annie. I did forget to mention you. What's your? Go ahead.
I was going to say, you can just let me know, and I've got some connections who can definitely make us masks prior to the events.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll call you.
I think we need, if we're done with this one, we need to keep moving on the agenda. Canette, anything else on this?
I'm done. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. The fall tree planting event, I believe that would be Reggie. And Reggie, I am prepared to display this offer letter that I received that I eventually figured out was from you. So you can take it away with this agenda item.
Okay, well, first, I'm not sure what letter you're talking about. We have not yet sent out the announcement to tree recipients of this planting event, but that is in the works. So Annie and I had our first tree subcommittee meeting over the last week, and we had a really good discussion about how we're going to plan for this event, especially adapting to the pandemic. So just to recap, the event is Sunday, November 15th from 1 to 4 p.m. We're aiming for 25 trees in the Wilson Park subdivision, which has historically low and diminishing tree canopy. We're planning, we don't know where we're going to be in mid-November, of course, nobody does, but we are moving forward with essentially two plans. The first is hopefully it'll be a volunteer event, very similar to last year. We're not expecting as many volunteers this year, so we're going to make sure that any gatherings are compliant with state mandates and what leading public health experts are recommending. So we're continuing to have those conversations on what that's going to look like, but we're committed to making it a safe event for everybody. In the event that we can't have a volunteer planting, we're going to work with neighbors in just as individuals or small groups to get all of the trees planted. And then I'm confident that we will gather enough volunteer hours and in-kind donations to match the city's $3,000 for the grant. Additionally, we're putting together, actually Annie is taking on the matching grant, and we're gonna be submitting it by Monday, and correct me if I'm wrong, Miles, just in time for the BCCI matching grant subcommittee to review the application and then hopefully approve it and get back to us within the next couple of weeks. So hopefully by the end of July, so that we can then move forward with distributing the tree offer letters to the people in the targeted planting geography. And yeah, so people will have several weeks over the summer and early fall to look at their tree options and get back to us. Annie, do you have anything else to add?
No, I guess my only other question, we had talked about, Miles, can you confirm that the maximum matching grant is going up to 3,500, or is the max still 3,000?
It's currently still 3,000. I have some additional discretionary funds for the matching grant program. So if I don't want that to be the hindrance to what you're doing. So just work with me offline and we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we're really aiming for a small scale event with all the precautions, but we do hope to maybe utilize more grants within a single calendar year or budget year. So we will definitely leverage these resources, which I'm really grateful for. So,
Reggie, are you going to perhaps stagger the activity on maybe the day before, some site prep, and so that the COVID exposure doesn't happen, and you can include volunteers to dig a hole, cover it, and then folks maybe the next day come in and plant the tree?
yeah, there's always before and after site work that's associated with these planting events. So I know that that's a guarantee, and we can have NAC members come forward if they're interested in supporting, as people have in the past. That's been really vital to making this a successful effort. Generally, what I'm looking at in the early stages of planning is having basically like small pods, like social pods. I think that's kind of what I'm hearing being termed as, but like basically, you know, if you're coming as a school group of 12 students, you will be in a group of 3 to 4 of those students that you came with the entire time. And everyone will be wearing masks, first of all. So I appreciate Annie bringing forward the offer of getting in-kind donations of masks. I think that will do a lot of people favors. But basically, people will be working with just 2 to 3 other people the entire time, and each pod will be socially distanced from each other. It's very difficult to be socially distanced when you're, you know, putting the tree in the ground, digging the hole. So that's why I'm going to be looking at what is the latest recommendations from leading public health experts and the state on how to go about having small gatherings. And then of course, this is going to be in November, so it's likely that the regulations will be changing dramatically over the next several months. So I can only just plan for what, you know, so far ahead in the future, but I think we will be able to adapt and still, if it is a volunteer event, then that will mean that there is capacity to build in additional precautions to keep people distanced and minimize exposure. And then if we can't have a volunteer event, then so be it. We'll still be planting the trees and fulfilling the conditions of the matching grant. I hope that answers it.
Did that cover the summer tree maintenance that's on the agenda here?
Ooh, no. So I can talk about that really quick. This is just a really low-key project that I proposed last meeting, which was approved. But I got word from Lawrence with the Beaverton School District maintenance department that he likes the idea of applying herbicide to kill grass that's encroaching on the tree trunks of the recently planted 2017 Arbor Day trees at the middle school along the driveway in front. There's already been damage in the past, but hopefully we're going to minimize that in the future. So my next step is working with the principal of the middle school, Curtis Samana, finding a weekend to have a volunteer event where our job would be to move wood chips and apply them to the tree wells. There are about 40 trees there. I say it's low key because I don't think it's going to take very long, and we don't need a lot of people. but it's just something that we're advocating for to protect the interests of the public as they relate to these young trees that we're hoping to allow them to reach their full potential with the changes that we're making. So,
Despite that you don't need a lot of people, could you still use the social media avenue to ask for volunteers and advertise that that's what's happening?
I think we could, although, you know, in the past, we've accomplished a lot with few, and I don't think we need to advertise this very far as long as we have a core group of NAC members who express interest going forward.
Well, long term, we do want to pull in more volunteers, and we do have a captive audience that's stuck in their homes. So
yeah,
I would encourage you to still use that avenue.
Definitely do it then.
I will help you if you need it. But Annie is really good at this stuff.
So as far as official business, I just wanted to propose a date and time for this so that I can talk to the principal. When he approves it, then I'll be able to schedule a on-site meeting with Kyle Goodman, the grounds foreman for the school district, and we'll kind of talk about what we're looking for. One barrier that I'm foreseeing potentially is if we're in an off season for spraying herbicide, I think the grass needs to be actively growing for the herbicide to work. So if it's in a time where all of the grass is dead for the summer, we might have to look at this in a different way and postpone it until another part of the year. But I just want to propose a date so that we can at least have something to aim for, and we can always cancel it or postpone it if needed. So without further ado, I'd like to propose August 29th, Saturday, from 9 to 11 a.m. meeting at the middle school for a volunteer event. And at this time, I'm not proposing any expenditures. I think we
Where are you getting the wood chips from? That doesn't cost anything?
That is a free service. I think I'm gonna utilize Chip Drop or see if the school district has their own sources they want to use. So
okay.
It's gonna be like just your run-of-the-mill Roundup tree. You know, it's free, it's arborist chips, but those are really good for mulching trees.
Okay, this sounds great.
So I guess, would anyone like, I don't know if I'm allowed to make the motion.
Yes, you can make motions.
Okay, because it's my event, I guess. But I will make the motion to have a volunteer event, a tree mulching party at Highland Park Middle School on Saturday, August 29th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
We have a second?
I second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm in favor.
Aye.
In favor.
Okay, any opposed? All right, there you go. Is that it for your agenda items, Reggie?
That's everything. I'll have
Okay.
updates next month on different visioning items.
Okay, now we need to do some treasury housekeeping, and I'll ask Jeff if he can unmute, and let's talk through what we want to do here.
Adam, can I
and
interject just for a second?
yes,
I got an email from Officer Matias. He was able to hear the whole first part of the meeting, but we couldn't hear him. The police
No.
aren't authorized to use Zoom on their city equipment because of the security involved with what they have to deal with. So he just wanted me to pass that along. We're going to work on why it doesn't work for the police for some reason. But he didn't want the group to think that he just left them. So I said I would share that.
okay. Miles, I think we'll need you for this too. But but Jeff, do you want to lead this or?
Sure, of course. So as treasurer, I kind of looked it up. I think I may have made the statement I've been treasurer for about 8-10 years, because it only feels that way. But I just looked, it was July of 2014. So it's been 6 years. So to be truthful on that. So I know we're running way over time, so I'm going to try to really be succinct here. So we've been kind of boxed in by US Bank, I think since the 1970s when this account was founded. We've been at US Bank. It's gotten more and more difficult for us to add signers. And at one time we'd usually have, I think it's required that we have the treasurer and the chairman both be able to sign checks. It's very, very important you have at least 2 people at all times. We are down to 1 person, and that's me. And the other signers are, moved out of the area, gone by the wayside, a lot of distance between us and them. So it's been, we haven't been able to add signers with US Bank because we haven't had the credentials in order to say this is who we are. They keep changing the regulations. It's gotten tighter and tighter. So we're to the point where we got to do something. So I had proposed months ago that we just simply drain that account and open up another account somewhere else. But we don't want to do that as an individual. We need to do it with proper credentialing, by the city. So Miles has put together a packet of information with Oregon's credit union, which I love the fact to move it to a credit union myself personally. We have all the information, paperwork. He has it pre-filled out with the vital stuff that we've been needing. We need to kind of fill in the blanks. I propose at this point, before I do the treasurer's report, I'd like to make a motion that we open up a new account at Oregon's credit union, drain the account at US Bank and close it. Put all the funds into the new account, and that Adam, at least at this point, Adam become another signer on the account. I think that's it. Adam and I would be completing the paperwork, getting the account established, and opening it. Miles, is there anything I'm missing with trying to be able to just simply do that?
I don't think so.
So Jeff just read a motion that was roughly in the form of what Miles you suggested. And I think we need the bank or the credit union to see the motion close to as written so they'll accept it as a credential.
Yes, we need to have it recorded in our minutes as we do when we add signers and things like that. They need to be able to see it. So Connette, I believe you're the recorder for this meeting. So you'd put the motion in place that what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, that Adam and I will be opening the account there. And that way we have it in written form in our minutes that we're doing this, because they will want to see that. That'll aid us in opening up the account. And then once that account is established, we would close the US Bank account or just leave it dormant and move on from there.
So we have that motion made by Jeff. Do we have a second for the motion?
I'll second that.
Connette seconded, it sounded like. Further discussion on this motion. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, note that there were 0 against. The motion passes.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, everybody. It's absolutely necessary we do this at this point. So,
okay. Can you hang on a second, Jeff? And we'll just, we need to get her to read it back to us, and then we'll approve that that's what we did, and then we'll have you do your treasurer's report, and we'll be good to go. So can I ask the recorder to record back the minutes that were of the motion that we just took?
Jeff Menzel made a motion that we close our current banking account at US Bank and open a new account at Oregon's credit union. and at the same time establish as signers Adam and Jeff.
And make sure you have Adam's last name listed, please.
Yeah.
And it is Oregonians Credit Union.
Oregonians.
Yeah.
Is that just Miles? So I'm clear. Is that on Allen Boulevard near 217?
It's off of Allen Boulevard. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right close to 217.
Yeah.
Right by the speed cams.
Yep, I know where it's at. Okay, very good. Adam and I will arrange to go establish the account. If for some reason, Miles, something comes up that we need something in addition, we'll of course be in touch with you to make a second attempt at opening up an account there. So thank you for moving that right along. I'll just go right into the treasurer's report.
Oh, we're not quite done, Jeff.
Oh, come on.
So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the addendum to the minutes as written, which makes that motion approved as read so that we can use these minutes right away. So if anybody would like to make that motion, the chair will entertain it.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor of approving the addendum to the minutes as written?
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Now, Jeff, could you give the treasurer's report? I'm sorry for interrupting you twice.
Oh no, that's fine. We just want to get it done and get it done right. Okay, so the Treasury's been very, very stable over months and months. So we had closed, let's see, this is the report for June 1st through June 30th. We opened the month with what our closing of the month was for what would be May, which was Connet. It was $3,287.67. We've had one transaction during the month of June, which was a check I had issued in the amount of $50 to Jennifer Lee. And that was to reimburse Jennifer for Facebook ads, boosts. So it was simply reimbursement. She had receipts that she had provided to me that equaled exactly $50. So that check was issued and cleared. So the ending balance for June 30th, $3,237.67. I also understand that Connet currently holds the debit card for the account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that at this point, I would, depending on how quickly Adam and I can get this other account established, I'd kind of like to, I know we approved some expenditures on your part. You've got the card, seems very convenient at this point. However, I would like to try to not do any more transactions with US Bank, try to get the Oregonians Credit Union account established, get the card, which is generally instantaneous once the account's opened, and then proceed from there under the new accounting with the new bank account.
I think that will be fine. As I anticipated that question and asked the waste management people, and I think that still gives us time.
Okay, very good. So at this point, unless there's any questions of the treasurer or of the treasury, I would just simply add that Adam and I will at post haste arrange a time personally for the two of us to get together to get over to Oregonians Credit Union and get the new account established.
Nice to see you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Can you email me when that happens? When that's
oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, actually, we'll just email everybody on the email, or Adam can just say, hey, the account's changed. So everybody's kind of aware.
So email board.
If you'd let me know when you and Adam plan to go, I can be around in case a question comes up or you need some other kind of documentation. I can email it. Just so maybe save a trip if something comes up.
Yeah. And Adam, between me and you, I mean, the first part of next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, during business hours work for me. I don't know your work schedule.
We'll coordinate something, and early next week is fine.
Okay, and the best way for
And
you and I to communicate, email, I'm assuming?
email if it doesn't go to the spam folder.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's try to get texting back and forth, which is much more convenient for the both of us.
Okay.
But we'll establish that on the side. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. We need to go to discussion of language services, which this topic is from Annie. Annie, could you cover what you wanted to cover here real quickly? You're muted, Annie. Oh, Annie is not available to talk about that topic. She had wanted to discuss with us getting Spanish language translation or captions. So let's move on to the city updates. Miles, can you start there?
Yes, and I will make it quick. We get back on time here. There's quite a few of them, but I will read quickly. July news, Black Lives Matter. Beaverton prides itself on being a diverse and welcoming community. We are listening and working to address heartfelt concerns brought to our attention by community members about systemic racism and calls for equity. We are committed to a path that brings us closer to where we need to be. As a city, Beaverton has invested in policies and programs to help make our work accessible to all community members who call our city home. Beaverton's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Plan, first adopted in 2015, was updated in 2019 and is a guiding document for internal and external efforts. The Beaverton City Council passed a resolution denouncing systemic racism at the June 9th City Council meeting. The resolution announces the city's promise to support nonviolent protests and dismantle longstanding actions that harm people of color, as well as a commitment to eliminate racism in city structures and practices. In addition, Mayor Doyle signed the My Brother's Keeper Alliance Pledge led by former President Obama and committed to review city policies, seek community input, communicate findings, and reform our community's police use of force policies. Community engagement and conversation sessions are being planned. For more information and next steps, it's beavertonoregon.gov/beheard. Quick COVID update, Washington County remains in phase 1 reopening, and city buildings will continue to provide most services remotely and keep buildings closed to the public for in-person visits and business through at least Sunday, July 19th. Some services, such as the library and municipal court, may begin limited in-person visits sooner with distancing and other safeguards. City services remain available for remote business by phone or online, including housing and business resources, mediation and culturally specific resources, neighborhood resources, building permits and applications, utility billing, and more. The library program, city events, and meetings and other activities are happening virtually. Beaverton City Library has launched BCL to Go, a contactless curbside pickup service at the main library. 5 days a week, library card holders can make an appointment at beavertonlibrary.org/BCLTOGO to pick up current holds that are in held status, as well as up to 3 book bundles for kids geared towards a specific reading level or interests. Book drops at the main library and Murray Shoals branch are open to receive returns. Materials are being quarantined for 72 hours before being checked in, so it may take several days before patrons see returned items off their account. Fines are not being charged for materials returned past their due date. Access to computers by appointment for a limited number of people at the main library is planned to begin in early July. Face coverings will be required for all library visitors. For more information regarding library resources and services, visit beavertonlibrary.org. Finally, the municipal court will begin to reopen in a very limited capacity, specifically for criminal arraignments or specific instances where defendants are unable to use technology to access remote hearing options. To ensure the safety of both court users and staff, the courtroom setting has undergone an update, to add floor markings for appropriate distancing, rearrange furniture, added plexiglass barriers, and will offer face coverings. For more information on the court, it's beavertonoregon.gov/court, or you can call 503-526-2290. And Annette, I will send these to you, so you don't need to try to write that all down.
Okay, thank you.
Miles, on the engagement thing, the Be Heard, is that something that people sign up? It's an email thing, like signing up for the various NACs, boards, and commissions?
I'm not sure. I'd be surprised if it wasn't, though. I think we almost always have that option for these big city initiatives.
Okay.
It would just be under the Notify Me section of the webpage, and it would list it with the other notifications you can receive. If it's not there, I will make that recommendation.
Can you tell us how we can promote that for you?
Yeah. When I have some more information, I'll definitely loop back with you.
Okay, and Jeff asked a question, what is the event setup on First Street currently?
That is called, I can't remember the exact name, but it's Beaverton Open Air. It's a public space where people can bring their lunch or buy lunch downtown, or get a beer or a glass of wine, and sit outside and enjoy those refreshments. With social distancing, it's being cleaned. It's a partnership between the city, the Beaverton Downtown Association, and the business owners in the area, to try to give them more seating and to try to give the city residents more places to congregate safely and build community.
Sounds lovely.
If it's okay for me to just jump in for just a second, Miles, I just wanted to mention that my family used the Beaverton City Library to go service, and we picked up 3 book bundles, and it's been really great. It's been nice to have that service again. The books arrived to my trunk and contact lists and all that. So thank you. I just wanted to pass that on to the library.
I'll let them know.
Yeah.
Real quickly, it looks like we have Annie back. Annie, we're ready for the discussion of your 2 agenda items, the social media update and the language services.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry, I had to step away for just a minute. And I will be quick because I know that we are running short on time. So the first piece on the language services, as we've been discussing over the last few months, of wanting to make these NAC meetings more accessible and get more public engagement, it occurred to me that there are residents in our community that speak a variety of languages, and for me, Spanish comes to mind, especially there's a lot of Latino-owned businesses along Allen. And so Miles discussed that this should be something that's part of our public discussion of NAC, but the city of Beaverton has budget allocated for translation and interpretation services. So while we are virtual, they could hire a translator that would then have all of our comments closed captioned in Spanish, so that residents who speak another language other than English can also attend. And then when we have meetings in person again, then it would go to interpretation services and having an interpreter at the meetings. So I guess I would bring it to the board members. Is this something that we would be interested in having and pursuing?
Annie, can I jump in just real quick? I'm sorry. That was one of the ideas for a way to provide translation services, and the city department that's tasked with that might have other ideas. So I don't want anyone to think that that's the only option or that's the option that we'll go with. There is translation services available. I don't think anybody's doing it virtually yet. So we'll kind of, if the board wants to pursue that, we'd be the kind of the test case to see how they would provide those services. And I'm sorry if that kind of caught you off guard, Annie. I just found that.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
The one thing about translation services is that we should have a confirmed recipient or user of the services before we make the city spend the money to do so. And until we have that person or persons, we might want to offer it on our agendas that people should contact us ahead of time to arrange that. Just like a deaf person might arrange captioning because they have the right to.
That would be good, and then we can like reach out to people of other languages as well. So like for example, at the bottom of the agenda, or maybe at the top of the agenda, so it can be more prominently featured than what might be normal, but have something that says like translation and or interpretation in a variety of languages that are most represented in our NAC or the city, and then they can get in touch with us and we'll know exactly what we need to provide. That's what I've seen in other cities, at least.
We are a few minutes over time, and I just want to keep this moving. And can we have some closing thoughts from you, Annie, on what you want to do here? And then let's do the social media thing real quick.
Miles, can you reach out to the department that is in charge of that and see if they can get language put in for the agenda so that that is available then on agendas going forward?
You're talking to mute, Miles.
I know, I was talking to myself. Just so I'm clear, and I'll be very quick. You'd like at the top of the agenda, translation services available, and have that written out in multiple languages with like contact information for me or someone at the city to request it. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Yeah, let's
I
start
have a
there.
quick question. I'm sorry, I know we're going over, but Miles, I'm wondering, does the city have kind of a policy on when you provide translation at city events? Is it, yeah, I guess that's my question. Like if it's a neighborhood where you know that there are community members that that speak that language, do you by default provide translation, or do you wait for a request for translation? Or do you have a policy, do you know?
Depends on the situation, but currently, if it's requested, we provide it. We don't by default for most things. Kind of bigger things like the town hall that's going to happen with the police or the voters forum, things like that, they automatically bring in at least Spanish translators for those. So there is a policy. I don't know exactly what it is off the top of my head. I'm happy to find out and send that out to the group. But providing language access is a priority of the city.
Okay, real quickly, can you complete the social media update, Annie?
So just two quick updates. One, to follow up on our last discussion about using Nextdoor for the app. I reached out to the lead person who manages it for Highland and asked if we could have a public agency profile so that it would be clear that information is coming from the NAC, and he declined that and asked that we just use our own personal name, and then if it's just going to be an update, that it's clear from the NAC. So I will continue to put the agendas up on Nextdoor, because it sounds like a lot of people use that, as well as put up timely updates of information. So like these volunteer events, or when THRPD said that they were having summer camps, make sure that that's available. the other ongoing thing is that we do have a website that can be less static. And Miles and I are working offline of what the best use of that website looks like.
Okay, sounds great. Our next agenda item, we need to approve last month's meeting minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the June meeting minutes. Somebody would like to make it?
I make a motion to approve June's meeting minutes.
Is there a
I'll second.
second? Okay, Reggie seconds. Discussion?
I had
I'm
just
gonna-
one.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm going to abstain from voting because I wasn't able to attend that meeting.
And Kenneth had something too.
Yeah, I think in looking back over the audio, I think the minutes should reflect that Captain Oates, it was Captain Oates' agenda about the 8 can't wait. He led the discussion on that, along with along with the importance of the community and wanting those items adopted as well. That's okay.
So we have an amendment that's being offered by Kenneth. Do we have a second for her amendment correction?
I second.
All in favor of the correction, please say aye.
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 Aye. Anybody opposed?
Once again, I'll abstain since I wasn't able to be at the meeting.
Okay, and then back to discussion on the motion to approve the
Aye.
minutes as amended. Any further discussion? All in favor of the June meeting minutes being approved, please say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? We have one abstention, I guess. We need to note that. Okay, motion passes. Real quickly, are we missing a BCCI representative since we lost Jennifer?
Yeah.
And do we need to appoint a new BCCI rep, Miles?
Yes.
Is there, Annie, did you want that position? Or is there somebody else interested in it?
If there's someone else interested, I would be happy for someone else to take on that role because I don't want to overcommit myself. And I guess do we have to appoint someone this month or can we discuss it next month?
We can do this at any time. But if we don't have somebody, maybe I should go until we have somebody. Is that acceptable, Miles?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I had thought, Bernadette, you were going to look at your schedule.
Hi, everyone. I can't commit to that right now, just with everything else going on. I'm sorry.
Well, since we're over time and you know we don't have someone lined up, Miles, can you make sure that I know about what I need to do there, and I'll just do it for the time being.
Yes.
And that said, if let's just burning issues, any board member or attendee, please type something in. Let's try to make this really quick. Something that you've got on your mind that you want to say, please do so.
Be sure to walk by all the trees we planted over the last 2 years. They look really good.
Thank you, Reggie. Anyone else? I'm not seeing anything coming in from our other participants. So
first, I'd like to say, Adam, thank you. You're doing a fabulous job with leading the meetings under the circumstances and using Zoom. And I just want to commend you on doing a really good job. Thank you.
well, thank you. And this meeting has been recorded and will be available on YouTube as soon as we can get it up there, if I can remember the password. And this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all.